Awesome, you guys. Hello and happy Saturday. Welcome to week 7 of Massive Momentum Bootcamp. Can't believe these weeks are flying on by. We've got so much incredible things that have been happening the last few weeks. Hope it's really been working as far as you understanding more of the business model of what we do as coaches moving forward in your own business. But kind of as a recap, the last 2 weeks now that we've entered more of the grow to ED section, is we've been going through a lot of sponsoring, the how, the why. Really, Josh broke down the numbers and really going through, the importance of sponsoring, and that's why that's such a key component in our coaching world, and really the key and the lifeline of what we do. Because we don't just offer people weight loss, we offer them the entire trilogy. Because as you know, I'm sure with the majority of our stories, or you'll see that if your story has not developed into that yet, that the biggest part of our story is going to be through coaching and that aspect. So today I'm really excited. We're going to get into more of, now that we started sponsoring, or we started reaching out to people, we started identifying coaching partners and approaching them to explore. We're going to now go into, well, what's next? Now, okay, we've got a coach. What do we do next? So I'm excited to kind of get into this. Let me go ahead and share my screen for you guys. All right, let's go ahead and hit present. Okay, so what is next? Next is we are going to talk about and get into building senior coaches with momentum, because this is really consistency with a fast start. Because who doesn't want to know a skill that they can really gain quickly? That is a skill that can be duplicated again and again. Building senior coaches with momentum is a skill, and it's a skill that you really want to get good at. And so this is a skill that we want to get good at, not just doing, but also duplicating this skill. And this is really something that you can learn how to duplicate with your teams. And you can really go as far as you want in your business. If you really get good at this and you get good at teaching this, then you can go as far as you want in this business, because building senior coaches is really that building block of growing your business. We can acquire clients and provide that solution for looking for, obviously that people are looking for. And then as we start to help coaches, come on, and we start to build senior coaches, that's really, you're going to see that that's going to change everything. As we start, as far as new coaches and we become, we get into coaching, our first thing is we want to acquire clients, right? We want to get really good at acquiring clients. But you've heard this over and over. You can only go so far with just client acquisition and just helping clients. And this is really that next step, is once we develop that sponsoring mindset and we start to share coaching with every single person, and it becomes just an organic thing that you do, you're going to see that even through helping people build to senior coach, it's going to change everything in your business. So building senior coaches can really help create blended EDs. Building senior coaches help coaches go FIBC. Think about it. So I want you guys to all put kind of a 1 in the chat if you really start to see now the importance of learning this skill and really creating this culture within your team. Now, this is something that, obviously takes a lot of practice, but it takes time too. And so you're going to see maybe you're not building them right off the bat, and that's okay. But once you really bring that culture into your team, you're going to see a really big difference. So here's the secret formula to helping coaches start strong. You guys ready? Here it is. Actually, this is what we actually think it is. So if you look at this, sometimes we think it's so complex and we think it's so difficult as far as building coaches or helping coaches start strong. But you guys, this is all chatter. This is what we think it is. There is a system for everything. And this is why it's so important for team coaching to help you know that you're not the one that's really going to be helping your coach. Your coach and your mentor team is really going to help guide your coach, and this is going to be a learning tool for you. You're going to see how your coach is coaching your coach. That way, when your new coach brings on a coach, you now know that you watched it and now you're able to do it. And that's, as you see, this is kind of what we do in everything that we've talked about so far, is we have, our mentors do it, or we have our sponsor coach teach it to us. We watch them do it, and then they watch us do it, and then we do it. And so this is going to be literally duplicatable through everything. So this is just the chatter. Do not think that it's complex. Don't think that it's It's difficult to do. There's a system for it. Sometimes we get into that kind of that chatter in our head that, oh my gosh, like I brought on a coach, I don't know what to do, or it's so difficult to, build momentum in them, and it's not. So let's not make it difficult. So this is a story that I absolutely love, and I'm sure many of you heard about it because we've talked about it in other boot camps, but so many people are new. And so this really ties into coaching. And the reason why I really love this story is because it really ties into what we do as coaches. So as the story goes, is there's a person that walked up to 3 bricklayers. First person, he went up to the first bricklayer and asked, hey, what are you doing? First man says, I'm laying bricks. Kept it simple. He talked about the process. And then he goes to the next man and asks, what are you doing? The man says, I'm building a wall. He can clearly see where the bricks are going. He can see that it's forming a structure and just creating something, but it's nothing interesting yet. Then he goes to the third man and asks, what are you doing? And he says, I'm building a cathedral. And even though he was just laying bricks and building a wall, he was actually creating a cathedral. So what's so great about this story is it talks about creating a process. You go from simple to complex. You go from lack of knowledge to knowledge. And this is really that visionary talk. So simply, I want you guys to think, do you want to be a bricklayer? Or do you want to be a wall builder? Or do you want to be a cathedral creator? The idea is that you want to create something bigger, which is building a team of coaches to work alongside you to have this beautiful part with Optavia. Then if that's something that you want to do, you got to start at the beginning. Because if you're not really good at laying those bricks, you're never going to be good at building a cathedral. And this really gives you that vision of coaching. We want to keep it simple. We want to lay down the foundation and that system for a coach. We want to lay down the basics, right? And from there, we want to start building them up, just like the man that built the wall. You're laying one brick at a time. You're giving them exactly what they need at the time that they need it. And before you know it, you've laid down the system. You've supported them step by step, brick by brick. And now you have all the tools that they need, and they have all the tools that they need to really be successful at building that cathedral. If you have come off mute, if you can mute yourself, I hear some background. Thank you, guys. So how this story is pretty incredible when it comes to really thinking about Linda, if you can mute, there we go. I just muted you. All right, let's keep going. Okay, so a quality coach explore and meet and greet really creates that launching pad, right? That's what we're doing is when we start to we have that coach explore, we obviously have our coach do a coach explore and we have them do a meet and greet. That is really going to be the launching pad because that's going to establish trust. It's going to establish communication and it's going to establish their goals. So edifying and launching from meet and greet. First, we're obviously going to go through their whys. We're going to really kind of get into that, right? That's where the communication is going to be established. Knowing that it's not just you and that new coach, but now you and that coach and that mentor team that you're going to establish. We're going to go through their actions, right? We're going to get their goals achieved. We're going to connect. We're going to make that connection. First actions are set, right, through the meet and greet. And we're just going to give them just-in-time training. I think someone is not muted. I did. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. Let me find who is not muted, or if you know that. There we go. Okay, so we're going to get that just-in-time training. Now it's our job to really help them launch. We're going to ensure that they have that clear path to success. We're really there to set the path for them. They're going to set the pace. We're going to place ourselves and that coach into that safe micro community and that environment of action first only. We're going to give them that just-in-time training. We're going to solely focus on those important steps to help new coaches awaken those first clients. That's what we're going to teach them to do. And we're going to have them learn to build business off backbone, and really, you guys, that just-in-time training, running with them side by side and giving them what they need right when they need it. We don't want to overwhelm them. We don't want to give them C, D, and F, if we haven't established A, B, A and B first, we want to give them just-in-time training so that they slowly understand before moving on. This is my favorite, you guys, is dreaming. The dream is what drives the action. A lot of what we do as coaches is we offer hope to people, right? We get them to dream. We get them to dream, and we start them to dream as far as what it's going to look like for them to be clients and get them to their weight goal. And, we want to do the same thing with coaches. Dreaming is such an important part of coaching. If this week we were on calls with a lot of coaches, and our goal was to just find out what was their goal and dreams for 2020. Because when you get in, just like, with a new coach, when you get them connected to their why, a coach is going to become fully engaged. And that's when dreams become a reality. Just like with clients, we get them fully connected to their why. They are going to be rock star clients. They're going to be so integrated. They're going to be excited. They're going to want to do this 100%. And that's what we want to do with coaches. We want them to be connected to their why. So we want to have them have goals for the next 2 to 3 years. We want them to see what will it look like for them. We want to ask those questions. We want to get them to dream again. How long, maybe I know for me, but how many of us on here, we kind of forgot what it was like to dream. We grew up and we just lived that day-to-day life, and we didn't know, what it was like to dream again, because it's been so long since we've done it. So that is really one of the biggest goals starting a coach off, is really having them dream and what they want their life to look like and what they want coaching to look like. So let's get into posture, because you guys, posture is everything. The first bucket after launching a Coach Explore and meet and greet, or that first bucket is launching that for that Coach Explore and meet and greet, because that's really going to set the stage. And with our posture as business coaches, our role as business coaches is to really help that coach get what they want, get that better life they may be seeking, maybe reach those goals and dreams that they're wanting. No matter how little or how big they are, that is our role as a business coach, is to help them get what they want. And when you help people get what they want, you're going to see that you're going to get everything that you've been looking for. So let's get into our posture. Their why is their driver, not you. You're not there to be their driver. Their dream is going to drive the action, remember. So it's important as business coaches to know their why. Making sure that you know what their why is and that you get connected with their why. Communication is key. Silence is not golden. If communication goes dead, it's not a good thing, you guys. And I'm sure you know that. Keep that line of communication always open. And one thing that we encourage, a weekly coach support call needs to be established from the beginning. That is going to be where you connect with them on a weekly basis. You're there for them all week long if they need, help with the coach. Obviously coach celebration calls, but we need to establish a weekly support call. Your availability. Does that coach feel like they're bothering you when they feel like they have to reach out or ask you for help? Never set that posture into your business, because that's part of growth. There's going to be times that we're going to need to inconvenience ourselves to make ourselves available for them, because that new stage coach or that new coach stage, that stage is vital, you guys. If you can help them first get that first win of, growing a senior coach and show them what is possible, that's going to bring the springboard to their future as a coach. So really set that bar high. Help them believe in themselves. Remember, just like a client, we're believing in them before they believe in themselves. Same thing as a coach. Let them borrow your belief. Show them that you believe in them. Posture team coaching. Let them see your mentor team that is involved. Making sure that all communication is in that thread, whether it's a text thread or a messenger thread, you want to keep all communication in there. Show them that, or you're really showing them that you're teaching them that coaching model. And you really want them to duplicate that when they start to bring on coaches and involve you. KISS. This is keep it super simple. Posture that this is simple, that there are only a few things and a couple of things that a new coach needs to know, because remember, we're giving them just-in-time training, and we're just going to show them the how. And that's what Cindy's going to get into. But we really want to show them, that the payoff is really big when they really stay obviously consistent. And but we don't want to make it seem like this is so complicated or this is so hard that they're not going to want to do it or that they can't do it. We want to show them that this is a simple model and that we're going to work alongside them every step of the way. And this is really huge when it comes to posturing as a business coach is, are you ready to get to work? What we're doing, you guys, is we're doing it again and again. You're going senior coach again and again. Maybe some of you have not been senior coach yet, but those who have, that's exactly what this is we're really just taking someone along for the ride and work as we create senior coaches, because it's just us going to senior coach again and again. And it does take work. Okay. It takes work and consistency. And then duplication is powerful. So what is it that you're duplicating? Is it attitude, joy, purpose, worth ethic, mission? What are you duplicating to your coach is really going to posture what it is to them that you're going to want them to posture to their team, because your posture is going to set the stage for their entire business moving forward. So let's get into some challenges of not working alongside your coaches. You guys, this is a relational business. You need to have a meter, okay? So some challenges of not working alongside is oversharing. Maybe they don't know what is enough to say or when to say it or how to say it. Not enough candidates. And it's not that they don't have enough people, but sometimes they can feel like they don't have enough people. Excuse me. Dealing with price concerns. Them not really knowing how to navigate that price conversation with a potential client, and really showing that there is no added cost in starting this program, that we're really just showing a client how to replace what they currently spend on food that's going to help them get to their goal. So, showing them that posture when it comes to that conversation. People vomiting too much information through Messenger and not taking conversations to the phone. Oh, this is like preaching to the choir right here. When I first started, I was vomiting everything on Messenger. And guess what, you guys? I didn't hear back from anybody that I gave all that information to. And that's what we want to prevent a coach from doing. Because guess what happens? They're still in that new baby coach stage. And if they're not getting any feedback, or they're not getting people to message them back, they're going to take it as, I can't do this. No one wants to do this. I don't know enough people. So we really want to get through, obviously, working alongside them so that they don't do that. Because we want to make sure that, they're learning to ask those open-ended questions and those awakening questions to help someone find what they're looking for. They might speed through a health assessment or not invite someone to join them if you don't teach them that. They're going to potentially not share the trilogy right out of the gate, which is really one of the best parts that Optavia truly offers, as we all know on this call. Clients will potentially start alone and making things too complicated. Remember, you guys, this business is simple. The system is really laid out, and it's laid out beautifully for us to really, all we need to do is just follow it and then teach our new coaches to follow it. So why start coaches well? So this list really kind of looks a little bit smaller than the last list that I shared, but this list is incredibly powerful. Keep that relationship open and engaged, you guys, because walking alongside them and encouraging them is going to help them thrive. It gives them the mission or the vision of our entire mission. How you coach them will set them up for duplication as they bring on coaches. Coaching them well gives them the structure to keep it fun, keep it simple, and keep it easy to duplicate. You want them to hit those milestones, right? You want them to make sure that, they're hitting those milestones when they want to hit them. It protects, this is so important, it protects our reputation and our offer. Because let me tell you, nothing hurts more to us than those who come in and maybe they're not engaged in the system. They're maybe not getting trained properly and they don't start off well. And so what they're going to do is they're going to start spreading what is not a healthy way to look at our business. And that's what we want to prevent. And we don't want them to share the opposite of what truly Optavia stands for, because they weren't able to experience it, and it was because maybe they weren't trained properly. So when you start coaches off well, you're really setting them up for success. And that's why it's so important to really start them off well, because of the fact that, we want them to thrive. They're trusting you just like they trusted you as a client. They're now trusting you as a coach and as a business coach. And you don't want to break that trust. You may have been an excellent client or a coach that's supporting them as a client, but now you get into that coaching world and now you're not supporting them well, they're going to lose that trust from them. So these are such important key actions. So now let's get into actions and what that looks like. And for that, I'm going to bring in the wonderful Cindy Kidd. So Cindy, my friend, go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. So, well, honestly, if you guys don't get into action, nothing happens, right? Like we've all heard it. If we treat this like a hobby, we're going to get paid like a hobby. If we treat it like a business, we're going to get paid like a business. So, which is the next slide. Sorry, Michelle. Michelle, are you driving or am I driving? Okay. 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 Yeah. So nothing happens if nothing happens. That's the key. Go ahead and keep moving. The other thing I'll note on that too, you guys, it's January, right? So everyone has New Year's resolutions. Everyone's putting together their vision boards or establishing goals. If you haven't done that, that honestly needs to be your first action step this year, because if you don't know what you're working towards, everything else is kind of irrelevant and you don't really know how to drive your business. So if you have coaches, I encourage you to jump on calls with them this coming week and ask them what their goals are so you can reverse engineer things and figure out how to help them get to their goals. Now, when it comes to having a coach now, we've kind of established the importance of sponsoring and now you have one. So what the heck do we do with them? It's not that hard, you guys, but there are some things that you want to remember that you do just in time and not throwing it at them all at once. The first one is sending them that starting point video. You want to send that to them. Really, that's the first thing, right? It's like their kickoff. They have to establish kind of their next steps and their goals and create their list. So that kind of helps you set the foundation, especially for the meet and greet call when you get on the call with your coach and do that sort of warm introduction. Hopefully that is not the first time that your client has met your coach, because we should be doing celebration calls with your coaches, the Coach Explorer call. So the meet and greet is really a formality to talk about the next steps in their business now that they decided to pay it forward. So you're going to work on setting up calls with their first 5 clients. Now we're going to talk about how to do that in a little bit, but honestly, you guys, my training here is going to sound very familiar from our training from Zero to Senior Coach weeks ago. So if you're like, hey, I've heard this before, you're right. But now you're in the coach seat and now you're coaching your coach. So that's the whole format of this training. So you're going to help them set up calls with their first 5 clients. You're going to teach them how to invite people to get on these training calls with them. Because remember, their business doesn't move forward until these training calls are completed. And we've seen a lot of coaches where they drag their feet. It's kind of scary to invite people to these calls. And so we want to make sure that we're helping them and guiding them and helping them get their chatter out of their head so that they can get this training done sooner than later. And honestly, that helps you even more than it helps them. Because if you can knock out the training sooner than later, then not that you're not going to stay locked arms with them, but it kind of releases extra time on your calendar and you're not just dragging your feet waiting for them. We're going to model 3-way health assessment calls. We talked about that early on and what those look like, and the importance of having your coach on there, especially leading those calls initially. We don't know what we don't know. Sometimes these training calls happen before they even get their coach kit in the mail. So when you have these training calls, make sure that you are sending them a health assessment that they can print out so that they can follow along as you're leading these calls for them. You're going to pass off tools in real time. Nobody wants to be bombarded with a ton of information. And in full disclosure and transparency, our first coach isn't even coaching anymore. And I think it's because, well, again, we didn't know what we didn't know. So we were just feeding her a ton of information. And I think it got a little overwhelming for her. So just know that we only want to go at someone's pace. They're not coaching for you, they're coaching for them. And so whatever that pace looks like, we have to be really comfortable with that pace. We want to help them expand their list. We work off lists, right? So if they watch the starting point video and you kind of got them kicked off on the right foot, then you want to make sure that they're constantly building a list, whether it's in a notebook, a whiteboard. That looks a little different for everybody, but make sure they're putting down people they have on their heart, people that have asked them about it, etc. So make sure that you are helping them and holding them accountable to that. Of course, asking them permission to hold them accountable. Going over their story. We've talked about that. Michelle and I did a little training on that earlier when it came to like social media launches, building your story. You're going to help them build their story. And that's really important because we've had a couple coaches submit their story to the transformational Facebook page and it got rejected because some of the scripting in there. So we have to get really good at helping people build their story so that it's compliance won't go after them essentially. We're going to begin tracking follow-ups. We're going to help them with that. Again, it's after they have the training done. We don't just send them to the wolves and say, okay, you have this all figured out. We, again, are going to lock arms and say, okay, who did you complete your health assessments on? Now let's follow up with them and let's teach you how to follow up with them in a way that doesn't feel icky. And then we're going to prepare them for social media because nothing happens with social media in terms of the program until they have their training done. Granted, there are some people who put out some feelers out there and will say, hey, I'm down 25 pounds. I'm feeling fantastic. That's okay, but we don't want to do an official social media launch until they have these 5 health assessments done. And again, that's more for you than it even is for them. Because if they launch without you or before the training's done, it could be really chaotic as you're catching up, trying to get things done with maybe 20 people asking them what's going on. All right, so inviting them to 3-way conversations. There's a couple ways to do it and we'll talk about it, but one of them is like, hey, I'm a new coach and I'm learning the basics. You have 2 pools of people, right, who are gonna ask them about program or that they wanna talk to about program, I should say. Pool 1 is, oh my gosh, Michelle, you look fantastic. What have you been doing? I wanna know. And then pool 2 is people who haven't asked, but we just need to knock out these training calls. So we wanna learn how to invite them. So I would love for you to talk with me and my coach together to see if this program is a good fit, is like a great segue. They have to know that you're new at this. So if we go to the next slide, here's one example of how we can invite someone. And this is the example of someone who has actually asked them about program. So, hey, I know you were asking about the program that I'm doing that's helped me lose X amount of pounds. Due to the success I've had, I've decided to pay it forward and become a health coach. And this is like the key part, since I'm new and just learning the basics, I would love for you to talk to me and my coach. You have to set the precedence up in advance that it's going to be a 3-way call and really that they're learning so that they don't feel like, all the pressure is on them. And they're going to tell them like he or she will be able to tell you more information about the program and answer questions. Are you free to connect today or tomorrow? Now, the next example is if they don't have anyone who's asked them, and every now and again, depending on how soon someone coaches, people may not have noticed, or they've been really private with their journey and they haven't shared it with anyone, so no one's even thought to ask them about it. We still need to get these training calls done before anything happens. And so this example is really for people who didn't have anyone ask, but they maybe have friends or family that may be willing to get them on a training health assessment. So this one is, I'm wondering if you could do me a favor. I'm assuming you know I've lost quite a bit of weight recently or not, and I've decided to pay it forward and become a health coach. One of my next steps in my training is to listen to my coach explain the program to 3 people in the next 7 days. Would you be willing to be one of those 3 training calls? And, we tell them it's going to take 20 minutes. You can tweak this a little bit. Again, we don't want to give a ton of information in advance, but they have to know that you're new to coaching and that your coach is going to be leading the call. And if they're comfortable with it, awesome. Get it scheduled sooner than later. That way you guys can knock out the training calls and then you could start doing these on your own, or your coach rather can start doing them on their own. Now for the next slide, social media launch. You guys, this one's like probably the best part ever because this is when things get really exciting. And for most coaches, when they do a huge Facebook launch and they go with their before and after, there's a ton of engagement because sometimes it is the first time that they're being really vulnerable with their journey and showing a before and after picture and sharing their story. I mean, how many of us were kind of really quiet with our journey because we didn't necessarily want to explain, or we were really embarrassed about where we were prior to finding program? There's a lot of people like that. So things get really, really exciting. And I love supporting people who do their launch, which is why I also love when people post in our group chats on Facebook, like, hey, my coach just did a launch. Go give them, some praise or kudos. And that way we can all kind of chime in and get people more engaged in their posts. Now, for many coaches, though, let's be honest, social media isn't for everybody. I mean, I even have my own family members who are young and in their 20s that aren't actively on social media. So we can't assume that everybody knows what Facebook is about and how it works. So we have to, give them a lot of grace when it comes to social media and help them with it. And sometimes we also have to help them with a before and after, and that's okay. That's our role as mentor coaches, is to help them wherever the gaps are. We want to keep it simple, keep it fun, and have patience. It's kind of a no-brainer, right? And we'll help them create their before and after. If you guys forgot how to do that, watch weeks prior when we talked about social media and the importance of it. You always want to add the correct disclaimer. And you guys, if you don't know which ones those are, connect with your mentor coaches, because there's a difference whether you're talking about weight and how much weight you lost in a certain amount of time, or if you're not talking about specific pounds lost in a certain amount of time. So having the correct disclaimer is important, because if not, you guys will get caught by compliance. Help them craft their first post. You can always do a soft launch. We have this in here. Soft launches are for people that just they want to put some feelers out there. And maybe they put up a picture, or maybe, like I said earlier, they share, hey, I'm down 30 pounds in, 2 months. That's just putting feelers out there. But the grand opening launch is the one that's most important, that we want to make sure we're holding hands with them and moving them forward. Now, here's the thing. You want to be a good example for social media, because you're now a mentor coach. And here's the thing, like, if you think back in your past and with people who gave you advice, if people don't follow their own advice, why would I follow your advice? So it's really important for you to model these behaviors that you are expecting of your mentor coaches to help them get to their goals. If you're not posting 3 times a day, why would they post 3 times a day? If you're not friending people or starting conversations, why should they? So you want to make sure that whatever you're modeling is what you want them to do and move forward. And I'm not saying you want them to copy you, because we are all individuals and we all create our own stories on social media. But we want to make sure that you are consistent and being a good leader by example, so that they know who to follow, they know that who they're following is actually doing what they're supposed to. You want to posture writing their book. Now, their book is really their life story on social media. If you're someone who's just blasting health stuff every single day, that's not going to be really appealing to most people, because here's the thing, that doesn't build relationships, and it makes it really hard to start conversations because you're going to lack engagement. And I'll give you an example of why this is so important. I went to a women's entrepreneur meeting yesterday, and Andrew came with me, and it's at a local coffee shop that has like a little room. And so Andrew and I were having breakfast and coffee beforehand, and I went into my meeting, and a lady comes in there, and I've gone to these meetings before, and I friended her on Facebook, and she says, hey, is that your husband out there? And I said, yeah, it is. And she's like, I thought I recognized him from social media. And so we just kind of sparked this conversation. But that's what we want. We want people to see your life. We want people to see your family. We want to build those relationships. Another gal was talking about Naomi and her wrestling. I don't even really know this gal, but I friended her at the last meeting. But these are things that it sparks good conversation. And you guys, if you can't build conversations with people and build trust with people, they're never going to trust you with your health. So you have to be willing to share your life, the good, maybe the bad, that's totally up to you. But it can't just be all about health. They want to know who you are as a person, what drives you, what are you passionate about? Because sometimes there's something that you post that maybe inspires somebody. Like, I've been posting a lot about volunteering lately. That's something that's really, I'm really passionate about that. And I've gotten a lot of messages like, hey, you're really inspiring me to want to do that too. In fact, Misty, who's on this call, just said that earlier to me this week. So you just never know who you're going to touch and the conversation that it's going to spark. So my one piece of advice for you today is, don't let it all be about health. Post about other things. And sometimes it's the dullest things that I post about that get the most engagement or the most conversations. So don't be afraid or overthink what you're sharing, and share that with your coach, because there's a lot of chatter when you're new as a coach about what I should and shouldn't post, or I didn't get many likes. That's going through their head. You guys know that because you guys have been there. So give them a lot of grace, but help them write their story on social media. Now, when it comes to Facebook, I know Michelle talked about Instagram. I don't have Instagram, but I can talk about Facebook and thanking the likes and replying to the comments. Those are really important too when it comes to a social media launch. Because if you're doing a before and after and you're helping them and they have like 80 likes and 40 comments, but we're not having them do anything with it, then it's going to be really hard, A, to knock out the training, and B, it's going to be really hard for them to get clients because they're not responding to people who are asking about it. So we want to make sure that if there are likes or loves, whatever on their post, that you are helping them send messages to those and teaching them how to respond. Because like Michelle said, we don't want to vomit information. And I know there were coaches that have been guilty of that. And some may say, no, it worked for me. 90% of the time, it's not going to work for you if you vomit information and tell them what the program is about. We have to know what their personal goals are. So we want to thank the likes. We want to reply to comments, not necessarily giving them all of the information, but saying, hey, I'm going to send you a private message. And that's when we're going to send that scripting that we talked about earlier as well to get them on a call. Now, our goal is to get 80%, our goal is to get conversations to the phone. Now, very, very rarely, when I say rarely, it's like 1% or less where you want to communicate all this information over Facebook Messenger or text. Sometimes people are super busy. I get it. But here's the thing. If they're super busy and they can't get on a phone call with you to learn about program, maybe this program's not a great fit because they have to get on calls with you weekly anyway to do check-ins to make sure they're doing okay on program. So just be aware of that. We're kind of setting the precedence and the tone ahead of time that this is very much a relationship program and you are here to help guide them through the program. And guiding them through the program doesn't mean text message. That's not very helpful. And 80% of social media is what happens behind the scenes. I mean, it's great to have posts that get a ton of engagement, but if we're not having conversations behind the scenes about these posts and building those relationships, it's not going to go anywhere. And that's why it's important that we talk about the 3x3x3, right? Because if you're posting every day and you're on it, and sometimes you're posting maybe 4 or 5 times a day and getting 100 likes, awesome. But if you're not doing anything with that, totally irrelevant. So you have to make sure that you are taking your post and moving it behind the scenes into a conversation. And that's the part that sometimes could be a big missing link for somebody because they have the engagement, they're just not doing anything with it. So helping your coaches do that early and get in that routine is super important. And then, of course, the 3x3x3, Eric, who trained that a few weeks ago, did an incredible job on it and explained the importance of it. But you want to relay that to your coach as well. And you guys, these trainings are all recorded. And so if you feel like, I don't know if I'm the professional when it comes to telling someone about the 3x3x3 and the importance of it, revisit these trainings. That's why we record them so that you can share them with your new coaches when the time is right. But again, if you're not modeling it, it's going to be really hard for your coach to move forward with a 3x3x3 if it's not something you're doing. On that note, though, before we move on, I want you to give your coaches grace because the only reason why people don't do the 3x3x3, if you guys have heard this from the Blanchards, they say it's only because they didn't know they can do the 1x1x1. Let them start slow if they need to start slow. There are a lot of people that have chatter in their head. We were one of them. Like we were terrified to post things or share things that Josh and Michelle were telling us to say or to post. So just know that your coaches are in the same boat. And if they're only comfortable posting once a day and starting one conversation, be okay with that until you work with them to kind of get their self-confidence up to post more. So just kind of be mindful of that. Don't give them a hard time if they're not posting 3 times a day, but work with them on it. Now, when it comes to, go ahead, Michelle, take it over with obstacles, and then I will come back.
I love it. That was so good.
Michelle, you're on mute.
There we go. Now I'm good, right? That was so good. Thank you so much, Cindy. That was incredible. And one thing I kind of want to revisit because it's so true, because I think this is something that a lot of new coaches do have a struggle in. And I hear this a lot is they don't want to come to the phone, or they tell me that they don't have time to talk. And so they feel like they need to kind of vomit that information out. And I want to kind of just assure you, if this is somewhere where you're at, or even assure how, if your coaches get there, is that everyone has time. Everyone's got 20 minutes of their day. It's that they're choosing not to, because what everyone is used to is getting the information that they can take onto and Google themselves, and that, start using that information that they can do. So one thing that I would encourage you guys is, and I've seen this work all the time, is that people do have time. Don't feel like, okay, I have to get them, I have to send them something, or I'm going to lose them. You're not going to lose them. It's simply just letting them know, hey, well, when you do have time and when you do have 20 minutes of your in a day, or 30 minutes, let me know. I'd love to share this with you. What you will see and what your coaches will see is that those people always come back around. Maybe not right away, but they'll get a message in like a week, hey, I've got that time, because they're still going to be watching you, and they're still going to be watching them. So just referencing to you and your new coaches. So don't feel like you have to vomit everything out because you feel like you're going to lose them. But that was amazing, Cindy. Thank you so much. So let's kind of get over obstacles. We're always going to have obstacles when it comes to new coaches, right? It's not always going to come off right off the bat. You're not always going to have coaches that, are, A++, like ready to go. You're going to have late bloomers. You're going to have slow starters. So what about a coach who doesn't seem interested in the work, who doesn't want to do anything? We want to give everyone that opportunity to partake the blessing of Optavia by painting that picture, right? And we're going to bring it back to their why. We're going to remember that the dream drives the action. So we really need to dive in and see what their dream is. If you have a coach that they start off, you think, how many of us, I know I did, oh my God, that next coach is going to be the next integrated presidential in like 3 months. Like, they're amazing. They've got this huge following, and then they do nothing. And you're just like, what the heck? We all have that, and we really want to, obviously we want to, we want to take it back and kind of go back and revisit their meet and greet. What were their goals? What were their dreams? What did they want to do? And this is what we do as business coaches, because no results, obviously no action. So let's go through some obstacles. As far as, what we do as business coaches, we find the kinks and we unkink them. This is one thing that we want to get really good at. I mean, it does take time. Don't think that you have to be a professional off the bat and you need to know how to do this. This is why it's so important to work with your mentor team. So we want to find the kinks of what is holding this coach back, and we want to start to unkink them by identifying it. And the way that we identify them is by we ask those questions. First we're going to confirm that action. We're going to kind of reverse engineer. We're going to see, are they doing what they're saying that they're doing? We're going to identify the obstacles by asking those questions for them, and we're going to ask them permission. And we're going to, this is really, asking, I want to kind of go back a little bit, is asking those questions versus telling, because you don't want to, you're not their boss, and you don't want to tell them to do something. You want to ask different things, and you want to get good with those questions. And so, excuse me, where was I? So asking questions versus telling, ask permission. Are you open to a suggestion? Because I found this to be really powerful when our coach started using this with us. Anytime that we thought, okay, we were doing something, but clearly we weren't doing something correctly. And instead of him coming to us and being like, hey, you're doing this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, he'd be like, are you guys open to suggestion? What I have found is, this, and this. So we really want to get good at going through these questions, identifying what their struggles and seeing what's going on. Maybe you're not realizing what's holding them back or what's slowing them down. So we want to kind of just go backwards and want to see, okay, what is going on? And then from there is what we really want to do is we want to go back to the action. We want to confirm the action, identify those obstacles, and then we're going to go through the hose and we're going to unkink it, and we're going to keep going, and we're going to keep going. And we're going to find, that next step of what's holding them back, and we're going to unkink that. So the process of helping them identify those obstacles, and working through those, and we're going to help them work through those obstacles, just like, taking it back to a client who may have had a struggle in their program. We're going to work through that obstacle with them. We're going to, that's what we do as coaches, is we're there to help them through every step of the way. Same thing with coaching, is we're going to have them, work through that obstacles before we move on to the next thing. Learn how to do it for themselves. We're going to duplicate it, and we're going to learn to do it and so that way they learn how to do it for their coaches. When you get really good at something, we talk about duplication all the time. When you get really good at doing something, and then you're teaching them, and that's teaching them how to do looking at you, and now they're going to get really good how to do it, because they're going to now know how to ask the questions. They're going to now know how to unkink that hose, and unkink the kinks in the hose. That way they can now go towards their coach. When they have a coach, they know how to do that. Remember, it's all duplication, you guys. We're going to repeat, have fun. We're going to repeat, we're going to edify them, repeat, compliment them, etc. Because we're making this fun. If a coach is not having fun, that is a kink in the hose that we need to figure out, because coaching is fun and we want to take it back. We want them to slow down. If they feel like this is too much and they're not having fun, we're going at their pace. Let's back it up a little bit. Let's go back to having fun before we move on. And then lastly is getting into senior coach celebration. I'm actually going to have Cindy go over that. So Cindy.
Yes, because celebrating is one of my favorite parts ever, honestly, you guys. I saw a quote the other day and it said, a person who feels appreciated will always do more than what's expected. And you guys, it goes hand in hand with celebrating our coaches every step of the way with their success. And when you have a senior coach, the minute they hit senior coach, I hope you're scheduling celebration calls with your mentor coaches. Because here's the thing, we want to set the precedent and have that culture of celebration. Next slide, Michelle. And if we don't have that, then it's no longer fun. And there's a lot of reasons why, like Michelle said, people may not consider this fun. And I was talking to a coach yesterday and she didn't find it fun because her structure was a mess. And so we were helping her a little bit with her structure and how we could kind of create her schedule to where she's not feeling like this is extra work, that's a burden, versus having fun. So that is really important, like Michelle said, to work through those kinks. But if we don't celebrate our coaches, if they don't have sort of anything to look forward to or celebrate, then it kind of gets dull. And you guys coach as a team, and everyone who's on this call, like, this is a coaching family. And whether you're in our line or someone else's line, when people post in first five, like, hey, so-and-so hit senior coach, we should all be in there celebrating them, because that is a huge accomplishment. And we know how much chatter you have to get rid of in your head to even get to that point. So we want to make sure that we are congratulating them, but make sure you set the precedence. Schedule that senior coach celebration call with your mentor coach. It doesn't have to be the next day. It doesn't even have to be that same week if there's nothing in that schedule. But the importance of that celebration call is then after that, we're going to move them to the next steps. So we're constantly locking arms, right? Like, yes, we have our teams of coaches, but our teams of coaches are everybody's teams of coaches. So you're still locking hips and arms with your mentor coach as you build your coach. That's what we want to model, because if we don't model that, they think they're doing this on their own. And nobody wants to do this on their own, because there are moments that are hard and scary and you get the chatter. And unless you have mentors helping you with that, we don't always have the answers. And so if one of our coaches wants to go to Michelle and Josh because there's something that Michelle and Josh say differently than us that inspires somebody, awesome. But just know that it's okay to bring your mentor coaches in to help, because that's only helping you and helping your own coach. So during these celebration calls, your mentor coach is going to help your coach and you go to the next steps and figure out what those are. And a lot of that has to do with goal setting. Like I talked about earlier, now is a good time to do that. Their senior coach, what do they want to do now? Maybe senior coach is exactly where they want to stay. Awesome. Let's talk about what that looks like moving forward to make sure you stay at rank for senior coach. Or their next step may be, I want to go full-blown ED because I love this, or FIBIC. Cool. Now's the time that we can kind of set the stage and figure out what that looks like. But what's important to do during these senior coach calls too is identify obstacles, because everybody has them going from 0 to senior coach. What were some things they really struggled with? What are those kinks in the hoses that Michelle talked about that we need to kind of undo and have your mentor coach help with? Sometimes it's really weird, but it's just kind of human nature. Just like on celebration calls with clients, sometimes they're more open to telling your coach something than they are telling you. And I think a part of it is because they don't want to disappoint us. And it's hard to kind of undo that feeling because we know we're not going to be disappointed in them, but it's just human nature. So sometimes your coach may be able to pull out something that's going on in their life or something they're struggling with that you haven't been able to do. So let your coach identify those obstacles and help them with that. The other cool thing about celebration calls with senior coaches is that's an awesome time to systems check. If you wait to do a celebration call until they're ED, then we don't know what's happened between 0 and ED and what their systems look like. We want to make sure that with their first 5 clients, their systems are in place and they understand what it's like to support a client well. Granted, you're supporting their first client because you're modeling it for them, but everything after that, you may not see everything. So you want to make sure that your coach is doing that systems check with them early so they don't establish bad habits that continue further into their business. You're going to hand them their coach glasses. We're not going to talk about having them sponsor any sooner, but this is a great time to layer that sponsoring mindset. The sooner they can get into that, the better off it is. It took Andrew and I forever to do this because we were terrified about sponsoring. So if we can continue talking to them every chance we get after senior coach about sponsoring, the better off they're going to be. And then of course, now that they're senior coach, they have 5 clients. So somewhere in those 5 clients potentially is a coach. And so during that call, we want to help them potentially identify who is that coach that they're going to bring on board. Is there a client that's been talking about bringing their spouse on board, or who has a friend who's interested? Those little hints that kind of fall into celebration calls or during weekly check-in calls, those are the names they want to write down. Because the kind of the script we want to use, not that I like to call it a script, is cool. Are you going to coach that person or am I going to coach that person? We want our new coaches to understand that they don't have to coach everybody that gets referred to them. They can build that sponsoring mindset and make it a lot easier on themselves. We're going to posture client integration, and that kind of goes hand in hand with systems checking, right? Rachel talked several weeks ago the importance of integrating our clients. And if they're not integrated, they're not going to stick around with us. And so we want to make sure that our coaches know what that looks like. Are they getting into the life book? Are they talking to their clients about their life book? Are they getting on the calls every week? Are they in Journey to Health or whatever group you have on Facebook so that they get that community aspect? There's a lot that goes into systems checking, and sometimes it's better if you let your mentor coach do it the first when they hit senior coach versus you doing it. And honestly, sometimes it's a good systems check for ourselves because we sometimes think we have it all down and we think our coaches are doing what they're supposed to, but we're human and we forget steps sometimes. And so having your mentor coach on those calls to do it is really helpful. And then lastly, we want to make sure during these calls that our action steps moving forward are really, really clear. And they're not your action steps or your goals. They are your coach's goals and your coach's action steps. Because remember, they're not coaching for us, you guys. They're coaching for them. We want to help them towards their goals and whatever that looks like. So during these celebration calls, we're asking them, what's the next step? What do you want to do with this? Are you still having fun with it? And you can find those kinks sometimes if they tell you no, or it's a little more than they thought it was going to be. We need to figure out why they feel that way. But at the end of the day, you guys, I want to make sure you guys are walking away celebrating the people on your team and getting excited for them. Because if you're not excited, there is no reason why your coach would be excited. Granted, there's some people that just have that intuition in them. However, it's really best that you model everything for them moving forward because you are now the leader and you are now the mentor. So lean on your mentor coaches for support if you need to. But honestly, you guys, if you guys follow these steps, it'll be really hard to not kind of set your new coach off on the right foot. All right, Michelle, you want to close this out?
Yeah, so it was awesome, you guys. And, you know, I want to leave it off with one thing that Paul Blanchard told Josh and I when it comes to, you know, building senior coaches is that they don't become, you know, business owners until after senior coach, because look at all of the terms that come after senior coach: manager, associate director, director, executive director, you know, business coach, business leader. All those terms are building a business. Right now, in a senior coach, we want to keep it fun. We want to keep it simple. We want to let them know that helping people is fun, because what happens is when they start to get those emotional deposits after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clients, they're going to want to keep going and they're going to be so excited to get to that next step. And so right now at this point, you know, we just want to model everything that is simple for them before moving forward. But the first step, I guess, in closing is, you know, having that sponsoring culture within yourself and knowing that this is not a weight loss program and knowing that Optavia offers so much more than weight loss. Weight loss is going to be a sliver of of their story. So that is all we have. I hope this was really helpful for you guys. Thank you, Cindy. You did amazing going over all of the key stuff. But that's all we got. So I hope you guys have a really, really good rest of your day. And we will see you next week on next week's boot camp.